Sony's crop sensor lineup of mirrorless cameras has been a trendsetter over the last decade. I remember the NEX lineup from back in early 2010s, and then you had the 5000 series and then the 6000 and all of the 6000 series that came after it. And luckily for us, a lot of the 6000 series are becoming cheap on the used market. I recently did a video on the A6000, which you can see up here. You can get this now with a great vlogging lens for under £450. Go check that out. And then now, what I actually ended up buying was the A6300. This is the A6000 for all intensive purposes, but with a few major improvements. While I think the Sony A6000 is great for photographers and people who need a very rigid filming setup, something on a tripod where audio is captured externally regardless of what camera you're using, so a streaming setup, for example, with a USB microphone would be quite a good advantage. I think besides that, the A6000 has sort of run out of tricks when it comes to keeping up with the times in terms of video format, frame rate, and different features. It does still have assist features like focus peaking, focus magnification, zebras, and grid lines, which all these are great for people who are beginners to video and people who have a Canon camera and don't have any of those features. Canon. But on a base level, we often need a little bit more from our cameras. Just as a quick caveat, before swapping to Sony at the end of 2020, I was a Canon shooter, and even the higher end Canon EOS R, which I originally bought new for about 2,000 UK pounds, which is a lot of money, that didn't even have zebras. So when I look at the Sony A6000, which is now going for 300 to 400 UK pounds, and I see that it has the same frame rates in 1080p as the Canon EOS R and zebras, I can't help but think this thing is a steal. And anyone who's getting a Canon camera right now for video that wants to spend a budget amount of money, something under £1,000, preferably under £500 to £600, don't look at Canon. Look at Sony, because they are innovating technology at the higher end of their cinema line and their professional hybrid shooter line, and it's trickling down through the APS-C bodies and it benefits everyone. I just realised I sound like a Sony fanboy here. Again, I've only just swapped to Sony. I'm not brand loyal. Then we look at the Sony A6300. This is the A6300 that I bought towards the end of 2020 along with my Sony A7C, which is my A cam. This is essentially my locked off B cam that I usually pair up with a lens like this Sony 16mm 2.8 pancake lens. This camera I bought used for £440 in good condition. From what I can gather, the only problems with this camera when I bought it from mpb.com, which I highly recommend, they have an international site and a UK site, and I think a few US sites, German sites. Check them out. They're really good for trusted, tested, used gear. The only things that I could find that were problems with the A6300 that I bought were a few little scuff marks around the lens mount, no problems with the sensor whatsoever, and the eye cup was a little bit wobbly / damaged. I just removed it because I never use it anyway. I also take off the toggles because I don't want that rattling sound. So I've essentially just taken this apart, used it for what I need it for. Before £440, what do you get inside this camera? One thing you do get that is a big advantage over the A6000 is 4K. You get 4K at 25p. That 4K at 25p shoots at 100 megabytes a second, which is fantastic. And then in HD, we have up to 100p, or in the US, 120p. And these again have similar bit rates to cameras like the Sony A7 III and the A7C. Along with this, we get full access to picture profiles, which means we get full customization of our image compared to the A6000, which only had creative style, which we were able to edit sort of like no picture profile or picture profile off. And in the audio department, we get a mic input, which lets us connect any sort of microphone with a 3.5mm jack. And on top of all of these, the A6300 also has 2 custom settings. So what are the advantages of the A6000? When you look at it like this, not really an awful lot. But again, if you only need a limited set of uses, then the A6000 might be good for you if budget is really an issue. But if you look just 100 to 200 pounds or dollars further, you are getting a very capable camera in a very small and very affordable body. There are, of course, the three main issues you're probably thinking of. One of those is rolling shutter. Yes, the rolling shutter still sucks in this camera, but if you shoot with that in mind and you're not doing any crazy, throwing the camera all over the place, Bourne Identity sort of shots, then you should be okay. Shoot with slower, steadier movement and locked off shots, and then you can take full advantage of the great image. Then there's the battery life and overheating problems. As I mentioned in my A6000 video, I pair up these cameras with a SmallRig cage, which I then mount an Anker power bank to the cage, and then using a dummy battery that can power the camera, and using a USB that can power my Feel World monitor. While the overheating issue isn't completely gone here, it does free up a lot of the heat, because most of the heat that is stored during the overheating problem is going straight into the battery. So when you take out that battery, you'll feel it's super, super hot. But if you have that going out through the dummy battery, it's actually the power bank that is absorbing the heat, which can then dissipate it better. And then with this power bank, instead of getting 1 hour to 1 hour and 30 minutes of continuous 4K recording, we're getting somewhere like 4+ hours. Right now, I truly think that the A6300 is the best bang for buck 4K mirrorless camera that you can buy used. If you're looking for a new camera, try to get something that you know is going to last a long time and you know that you have full need for. So if you're looking at things like the FX3 and the A7S3, but you only have budget for something like this, this might do you perfectly well in the meantime until you can get a few jobs in, make a bit more money, and then invest in those higher end pieces of kit. It is always important to remember that the camera body will only do so much for you. They do allow you to have sometimes better low light performance. Again, things like mic inputs and picture profile settings that you can learn with, but also think about investing in things like sound, lighting, filters, better lenses. All these sort of things will add up to improve the quality of your camera body. An A6000 with a better lens, better lighting and better sound is a lot better than an A7S III with a rubbish stock lens, no filter and ambient light. So keep those things in mind. Okay, that's it from me. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.